Hey, hello everyone, and welcome to the Zero to CCIE or Zero to Lab for CCIE webinar. My name is Arpit Pandit, and I will be your instructor also in case if you join this course. So today we are going to learn about this course structure. What exactly are we going to cover in this course? What can you expect from this course? What are the different tools that we are going to use? What resources will be available to you? And how exactly is this course structurized so that it can help you to the maximum levels to so that you can pass your CCI Enterprise Infrastructure exam, right? So let's get started. But before we do that, one thing I want to say is that anytime you have any questions and you want a dedicated one-to-one session, you can always book a call or a Zoom session with us. And let me actually put a link there into the chat so you guys can copy it. So you can copy this information and keep it with you, and you can definitely directly click on the link as well to book a session with my partner Christian, and he would be more than happy to answer all your questions regarding the course, technical or non-technical, after the webinar if you have more questions, right? So let's get started. Just give me a minute. All right. So first of all, what exactly is Zero to Lab program? So let's talk about the course structure. Now, so many times we had seen like the reason we created this course Zero to Lab is that we had seen that there are so many different boot camp style of courses available everywhere. And boot camp basically means that you generally cover all the CCI topics within 5 to 7 days. Sometimes you will get a boot camp of max 10 days, for example. But that's about it, right? That's the maximum number of days they give you in a boot camp, and they try to teach all the technologies, all the different topics within that time span. So we somehow felt that this is not enough because CCI topic list or the syllabus is huge, curriculum is huge, and if somebody is coming from CCNP or even after passing CCNA and doing work in industry and then trying to level up their game and do the CCI, it's actually not enough time to be prepared for the exam. We wanted to make sure that you gain that confidence and that comfortability with the topics and with the configuration hands-on that you generally don't get in 5 to 10 days boot camps. So that's why this course was created. And the structure of this course is that it will be 1 day a week. So you can see that we are going completely opposite direction. This course is not going to be finished in a week. Instead, we are going to concentrate on a particular technology for multiple weeks and make sure that we do many labs on that technology to make sure that we become very comfortable. We do the repeating as well. You will have the class recordings as well. So you so that you can get all the resources to become very comfortable with the core technologies, right? The basic building block or the fundamental technologies for enterprise infrastructure. So it is going to be a 2 hour session, and first hour it will be the lab configuration by me. And what I mean by lab configuration is that we are going to pick a topic. For example, today's topic is DMVPN, dynamic multi-point VPN. So I am going to start from scratch. Maybe you do have some knowledge in DMVPN, maybe you are working with DMVPN in your industry, or maybe you have never heard of it. So irrespective of whatever level you come from, you will get all the information needed for the from the scratch all the way to the CCI level for DMVPN. So we will start with the basics. We will make sure that we understand the logic, and we always answer three important questions. What is this technology? Why do we need this technology? Like what exact problem is it solving? And of course, the biggest question after that is how to configure it and how to troubleshoot it, right? So once you get this information, then we back it up with a lab configuration. So we will this course is completely created based on hands-on approach, and the reason is because of course CCI exam is completely hands-on. Few multiple choice questions part is there as well, like design part. But what happens is that when you can configure some things and when you can troubleshoot some certain technologies, you can answer MCQs very easily based on that, right? So since the exam is mostly hands-on heavy, we wanted to make sure that every single session we also cover all the practical things. So after the theory part of a particular topic like DMVPN, as I mentioned, we are going to go through the lab step-by-step configuration of a lab. And these labs are called single protocol labs. Single protocols because we are concentrating on a particular topic, maybe on ether channel, maybe on spanning tree protocol, maybe on the redundancy protocols or OSPF or EIGRP or SD-WAN or Python, RESTconf, NetConf. So we will actually cover individual topics separately into a single lab so that you can become very comfortable with that topic. And some topics are huge like OSPF or BGP or MPLS. So we are not going to finish it in a single day. So we will have multiple labs about different parts of that configuration, right? And what happens is that the second hour participant can actually configure the same lab, or what we can do here is that we make sure that you get the access to all the infrastructure that you need to solve the lab. And that is something I'll explain you later at how you will you get the access to these things. And once the lab is done, you can send me the show commands output via email to make sure that to show that you have completed the lab. That way, we have some kind of accountability that you are also doing the configuration week by week every time. So your participation is also very important here. And of course, I'm also going to provide you with a solution file apart from the lab file that I'll send you. So why solution file also? Because again, you need to have a mindset of learning when you are coming to this course, not only when I'm teaching, but also when you are doing the lab. So of course, I'm going to explain you the topics and then I'm going to do the lab within the live session step by step, showing you how exactly it is done. But then when you do it, uh, that time, don't think that you have to test yourself. Don't think that you have to remember everything from the session because you are still in the learning phase. So you just need to start configuring the lab. If you forget something or if you get stuck, feel free to check the solution file because it's still the learning phase is going on, right? But the solution file will have all the information that you need to complete the lab. It's more of a practice basically to become more comfortable with the technology, right? And if the solution file is not clear, you can definitely ask me. So in every live session which we will have, we will also have a quick Q&A session at the end where you can ask me questions. But in case if you remember something later, when we don't have a live session and you want the answer quicker than the next live session, then you can also join our Facebook group where you can ask questions and other students can also benefit from that question. And even we have some students for a long time, they can also answer your questions there. And of course, I will also be there, so I will also be very more than happy to answer your questions there, right? Uh, how can this program help? So, okay, we have a CCI goal here, and what makes this program unique and different from other programs for CCI? So the main thing missing in a lot of programs is a lot of practice. So either it is like crammed up within a week, like 5 days, 10 days boot camps, or it is completely video based program where you just go through every topic video by video, watching recordings of how things work. But there's a lack of practice. And when you think about, okay, how do I practice it myself? So either you decide to purchase some gears, you try to purchase some routers, switches, and these things. But on the CCI level, it's not very easy also, and it's not very cheap as well. For example, if you want to do SD-WAN, those devices are not very cheap. Or even if you want to do programmability, you want to use RESTconf and NetConf calls. So normal iOS routers will not accept that. You need to have iOS XE routers, at least CSR series routers. So that can become quite expensive. So then you think, okay, how about the virtualization? I can use some tools like EVNG or GNS3. So doing it on your own, what happens is that you need to first of all learn how exactly that technology work or that solution work, like EVNG or GNS3 or Zen or KVM, and then you have to procure some iOS and SD-WAN programmability images. You need to copy them and then you need to license them. And finally, when the setup is ready, you will have to think about different topologies so that you can uh, use different scenarios. For example, what if I want to check authentication in OSPF? What if I want to check DR/VDR configuration? What if I want to configure a layer 3 VPN using BGP as the P2C protocol in MPLS? So you have to create so many different scenarios. So all these extra hassle that you have to put, that's not even part of CCI exam, right? This is just to get yourself ready to start practicing. So what we do in this program and what makes it unique is that we take all these hassles away from you and we give you a single file, an OVA file, which is a complete package. You just need to have the VMware workstation player or VMware workstation on your Windows PC, and you can just import that OVM. So what you will get there, you will get the program that we use for emulation, EVNG, and all the routers, switches, SD-WAN devices, the images already copied and licensed inside that. And finally, also, we have also created the single protocol and multi-protocol topologies for you so that you can directly concentrate on the technology CCI topics right from day one, right? That's the basic idea. And I'll explain you later. I will show you an example as well, how and what are the different topologies we use, and to give you a quick example at the end, right? So this program addresses this issue that the lack of practice is all the single protocol labs that we will provide you. They are configured and explained by me into the live Zoom session first, followed by the configuration by the candidate, whether there or you can do it within the week. That's why we have a weekly session. So most of the people who are trying to pursue their CCI, they are working professionals. So they don't necessarily get all the time in the world to go for like 12 hours of uh, uh, boot camp kind of style of course. So they can do the lab whenever they get time. Just inform the instructor with the show commands that it is done. So what happens with this is you learn something new, in-depth theory about that, and then you see the instructor or me configuring that same technology step by step within the live Zoom session. And I will not be configuring it quietly. I will be explaining everything what I'm doing, so you understand not only the technology but also how it is implemented and how it actually impacts the configuration. And after that, you get the whole week to do the same lab again. Along with that, you will have the solution file, and you will have the lifetime access to the recordings of live Zoom sessions. So you can again go back to check a certain part which you might have missed or didn't understand properly before, right? So the detailed solution files for practice labs that will be provided to you as well. Every Zoom session, when we will have a live session, at the end, we will have a Q&A session to clear any doubts from that session or from the one of the previous sessions. If it's a bigger question, you can always ask me on the Facebook group that we will have, or when you are watching the recordings from the portal later, you will see there will be also a comment section where you can ask a question that comes directly to me as well. So there are many ways you can also get support. And this is, you know what, this is one of the things also missing in many of the online courses. So if you buy a video course, you are on your own. Maybe you can email the trainer or the company, and they might get back to you in few days or few hours. And if it's a detailed question, they might not even bother. This is something you will see is completely different with us. We take our program very seriously, and we want to make sure that the objective that we have is same as what you have to get you your CCI number, right? So whenever you have any questions and you're asking the questions, you will get support from me and you will get the answer. So anytime you have any issues, not only you are getting the detailed in-depth technology training, you are getting the step-by-step configuration examples, video recordings, plus the solution file. But even if after all this, if you get stuck or if you don't understand a particular part, like why this solution is in this particular manner, you can definitely ask the questions and we'll be more than happy to answer. So that also makes it very unique. Uh, SDN, software-defined networking, will also be covered in depth, which is a big part of exam. So you will see that in software-defined networking, or Cisco also called is Cisco also likes to call it IBN, or intent-based networking, where you can decouple the control plane and data plane. So your devices will only be used to forward the packets and receive the packets. But how they are going to do that? What is the policy? What is the routing and switching policy or WAN policy you are using? That will be defined on a central device somewhere, which is called the controller. So those kind of concept you will see. If you do it on the WAN side, it is SD-WAN. If you do it on the LAN side, it is called SDA, software defined access. Apart from this, we will also cover programmability and automation in detail. So we will cover Python language. And if you have never used Python before, no worries, because we start that also from scratch. Although Python is a huge language and it's just like normal languages. If you are American, you want to learn Italian language, Spanish, it's a huge language, right? It's a complete structure. So we are not going to learn the complete Python. Nobody knows complete Python in this world. Everyone has different areas of expertise. So we are going to concentrate more on the networking module of Python. So we'll see how we can utilize Python to query routers for different information or to configure router with different things using the Python programs. And we will also see some transportation protocols used in programmability like netconf and restconf, and how exactly we can use different tools like curl command or postman to actually send our queries or change anything even on our routers and switches. So that part will be there. We'll also see embedded event management or EEM scripts or EEM applets, and a very powerful thing which is to combine EEM and Python together. And whenever an event happens, you can actually invoke a Python script to do something on your router or on your switch. Finally, we'll also see on-box Python, which is a very interesting concept where you spin up a container inside a Cisco router, a Linux container, and it's a complete full-fledged Linux operating system running inside your Cisco router as a separate container, interacting with your Cisco router and running Python language so that it can actually make changes or query your router. So it is called on-box Python. That is a very interesting concept, and that also we'll learn there. Of course, not to take away from our core technologies. They are the bread and butter of CCI enterprise infrastructure. We will definitely pay a huge part of our time, and we'll pay a huge part of our attention to those technologies like switching, where we'll cover VLANs, trunking, Ether channel, spanning tree protocol, very important part. Routing, we will cover static default routing, EIGRP, OSPF, BGP. RIP has no longer is no longer part of CCI exam. So although we do have some recordings of these, so you can watch it if you're interested into RIP, but it's no longer a part of new CCI exam. So we'll cover these topics. We'll also cover multicasting, MPLS and DMVPN technologies, GRE tunnels, IPsec tunnels, list location ID separation protocols, QoS, quality of service, multicasting. So all these important core technologies or topics and IP services like NTP, network address translation, SNMP, NetFlow, all these things definitely we are going to cover in very much depth as per as we need for the CCI level. But apart from that, I was just mentioning that the newer things which are added or advanced things added, we are also going to pay equal attention to these things as well, right? Uh, and we will not only have the single protocol lab. So as I mentioned, every week we will have single protocol lab where we will concentrate on a single technology. But of course, once the single protocol labs are finished, which are almost 50 of them, then we are going to switch to multi-protocol labs where we configure a big topology with multiple different multiple different protocols working together to make it a complete solution, starting from the layer 2 to layer 3 IP services, VPN services, and then advanced services like SDN or programmability. So we are definitely going to cover all of these things. Just so, by the way, if anybody recently joined, just want to reiterate that if you want to talk to Christian and if you have more questions and would like to have a one-to-one session with Christian, then definitely you can check the chat of this meeting or this webinar, and you will find some links. So I would highly recommend you guys copy this and keep it with you and book a session either for CCNA or for CCI like this one, or after this one, we have a Linux webinar as well. So if you are interested into Linux, you can actually book a session for that as well. So because we have many webinars today and other aspect as well, so there might not be a long Q&A session in this webinar, but don't worry, you can get a personal one-to-one Q&A with Christian about technical questions or non-technical questions about timings and everything about this course pricing as well. And you can book it there. So definitely keep it saved with you and book a session with Christian. So talking about multi-protocol labs, let me give you an example. So for example, we have a multi-protocol lab one where we will go through different technologies configured on the same topology. And the file will be similar to single protocol lab, but it will be a long file, of course, with multiple different instructions. So instructions will be divided into sections and subsections. Like this one is for the FHRPs, first hop redundancy protocols. That's what we use generally on the gateway routers. If you have more than one routers as the gateway for your LAN side devices. So in your LAN, if the devices want to go out of the network, they need to go to the gateway, right? And generally we have a layer 3 device like a layer 3 switch or a router as a gateway. But if you are having multiple layer 3 devices and you want to have some kind of redundancy, you can use first hop redundancy protocols like HSRP or VRP, or if you want load balancing, you can use GLBP as well. So this is an example of one of the topics from multi-protocol lab, like configure, implement a FHRP mechanism on some switches in these VLANs according to these requirements. So the idea is that you will have instructions, do this, do that, and then if you go to the next page, you will see there will be corresponding solution as well, what exactly you can do to get this information. But don't worry, this is for the multi-protocol. So that means you already finished all the single protocol labs and you are already comfortable with these individual technologies. And now you are just doing it all together. So what happens is that you actually work on a topology, something like this, where you have data center, headquarter, internet connectivity, and you have DMVPN tunnels to your branches like branch 3 and branch 4 here. We are using branch 3 and 4 because it is the traditional DMVPN network. But when it comes to SD-WAN, we will use branch 1 and branch 2. So for SD-WAN, you can see it will be something like this, where we have the data center, and we have all the SD-WAN controllers here, vManage, vBond, vSmart, couple of vEdges devices, and then using this service provider, we have connectivity to the branch 1 and branch 2, which is you can see VH40, VH51 and 52, so that we can see the implementation of software-defined networking as well, and how the BFD sessions will be formed. So all these diagrams and these PDFs with the questions and solutions, all I'm going to provide you as well. And just to give you an example, in the live session, you will learn programmability. Like one of the very important protocol you will learn is RESTconf. So RESTconf is actually based on the protocol REST, which is the representational state transfer, which can send API request to your routers to query something or to change something on the router. For example, you can see here, I have a router CSR1, which is connected to my host computer using this cloud. So I can ping this router from my Windows 11 PC. So what I want to do is I want to know what is the VTY configuration on this router. I'm interested into that. So you can send something called Yang data model structured query using REST. And REST or RESTconf, it uses HTTPS port number 443, which is open on most of the devices. And also HTTPS or HTTP has a very simple structure to request information. It sends the GET message. To retrieve the information, it sends the sorry, to change the information on the router, it uses the post or the put message. And to remove information, it uses delete message. So messages are very simple that you can use the RESTconf to send. And you can use the curl command from the command line, or you can use a software like Postman. For example, there is a software called Postman. Let me open that. And you can send the queries to your device. For example, you can see here, I am using a post query, and you can see it is HTTPS, and I'm sending it to my CSR router on port number 443. And this is your Yang data model structure, which I'll explain you when you join the class, and then we come to that programmability part like RESTconf data. And we are actually specifically doing something with the interfaces. So what exactly are we going to do with the interfaces? If you go to the body of the request, you see that we are adding a loopback interface, loopback 100, and we are enabling it. Enable is true means no shutdown, and we are configuring IP address 100.1, 172.16.100.1 with /24 subnet mask. So currently, if I go to router 1, CSR1, and if I check show IP interface brief, you can see that I don't have loopback interface at all. But after the successful RESTconf request, it should create a loopback interface on the router from the postman, right? And for that, RESTconf must be activated. So let's see if RESTconf is there. You can see RESTconf is configured, and your HTTP should also be there. So you can see HTTP is also configured, secure server. So few things you have to configure here that I'll explain you in the class when you join that what exactly you need. But once it is done, then you can go to the postman and you can just simply send this request. All I need to do here is I need to click on this send button, and I should get a message 201 created, right? So the request was successful, and you can check it on the router now. You can see we get some netconf/let's messages, and then if we check show IP interface brief, There you go. The loopback interface is created, right? And if you check the description of it, so interface description, we have set a description also from there, added with response. So this is something we had this into the body as well. You can see description added with the response, whatever description you want to do, right? Not only this, you can also use other kind of request as well. Like you can get some information. Like I want to know about the line VTY. So you can see this is the structured response data, iOS XE native line VTY. Now, generally, this is called URI, Uniform Resource Identifier, and this information will be given to you in the exam because they also understand that you cannot remember all the Yang data models that are used into these queries. So they will give you these query information. You should just know how to use the Postman, because in exam you will have something like this, like a Linux box. Like I'm using my Windows machine, but in exam you will have a Linux box which will be a complete operating system like this one, and you will be able to access this, right? So currently I think it has got stuck, but it shows basically the information about that, right? So I might have to restart the Linux box to make it work again, because this is one of the older ones. But you will get the same Postman application there basically. So for example, this one you can see the action is get, means I just want to retrieve some information. So when you retrieve some information, you will get the response here into the response body. You can click on send, and you see that I got the idea that there are 531 lines, VTY lines, and login authentication is set to default, and the transport input is set to secure shell. That means telnet is not allowed, only SSH is allowed. So I can get the information into the JSON format or JavaScript object notation format. You can change the format to XML if you like to see this into the XML format. So that's actually pretty neat. And this is just one example, just to show you that it's a very interesting concept of using automation and programmability that we are definitely going to cover here as well. And throughout the course, you will see troubleshooting tips will also be provided, because troubleshooting, I actually strongly believe it depends on your fundamental knowledge. Like if you know exactly what happens initially when the OSPF neighborship is formed, the hello messages are exchanged. So what things are sent into the hello message? You send the network and subnet mask, you send the area ID, you send the router ID, you send the timers, you send the MTU size. All these things must match. Authentication is configured, must match. So if you know the list, what is exchanged, you can check those things if the neighborship is not coming up. So you see, troubleshooting depends on your underlying knowledge of the technology, and that's why we're going to concentrate on that part heavily, so that we become very comfortable in troubleshooting as well. And you will have my support throughout the course, because believe it or not, we really love when people get success in their CCI exams. So training is our passion, although it's a cliche, but that's true for us, and we really like when people actually grow and get more benefit from the courses. So anytime you have any issues, definitely get in touch with me on the Facebook, or under the from video portal. You can get you can comment it, and it will also get to me. Or if it is more of a personal question, definitely you can reach out to Christian on or me on the email as well, right? And of course, don't forget, you will have lifetime access to the class recordings. So let's say life kicks in and you have to stop your studies, and then you come back after 6 months and you want to start everything again. Don't worry, there is no timeout period for the class recordings. You can go through them again. And let's say if there is a revamp in the CCI exam syllabus or curriculum, Cisco introduces some new things. And if we are going to include that into our program, we are also going to include that into the recordings. So even after 2 years, you are coming back and studying with the online recordings, you will see the newer topics will also be included there for lifetime. So you don't need to pay anything extra for that. Now, exactly what tools do we use for this? So as I mentioned earlier, we use EVNG on VMware for routing, switching, SD-WAN, and programmability part. So you will see that VMware Workstation Player is a free software. You can download it, or if you have a pro software, which is a paid version, that is also okay. But we recommend to use VMware instead of VirtualBox or KVM or Zen, because of the sole reason, because we are also using it. So if you get stuck somewhere or if you have an issue, we might be able to help you more if you are using VMware. VirtualBox or Zen or KVM, we might not be able to help you that much, right? So it's better to use this. And also we actually recommend using Windows operating system. because that's what we are also using. So it's easier to exactly show you how you can link your putty with the registry file. So you can just click on the device and it will open your console. So click on diagram and open it. So you can definitely do these things in Linux also and in Mac OS also. But you might have to do a research on your own in that case. But once you have your VMware, all you will need is an OVA file, which I'll send you. You import it into the VMware, and bang, you have everything. You have all the topologies preset. You can just boot the devices, and right from the day one, you can start concentrating on configuration, configuration. Right? Uh, Topologies are already set, as I mentioned. So lab files will be sent every week for the next week also, so that you can practice beforehand as well, and solution file will also be sent along with that. So the topologies are pre-built. Let me give you an example. So if I go to our 02 lab EVNG, by the way, when you import the OVA, you will actually get something like this. Let me show you again. So when you import the OVA, you will get something like this, a boot window where it is asking you for the login credentials into the Ubuntu operating system. So EVNG actually works over Ubuntu. You can see here that it shows you an IP address and then it asks you for the login credentials. So login credentials are shown right there on the screen. The very first line you see, default username is root and the password is Eve. But you don't need to log in here. You don't need to know Linux commands at all. We are going to use the GUI of EVNG to check our topologies and configure our devices. So for that, you just need to open this IP address in a browser. So you import the OVA I send you, you boot the EVNG, you get to this screen, and you just need to open this IP address. So if I go to this IP address, you will see it will ask you a username password here, which will be admin and EU. So you can mention that here. You sign in, and then you will see that there are different topologies depending on what topic we are covering. If you are covering ether channel, there will be a different topology. Span RSpan different topology, and base lab, which we will use for most of the routing practicals, it will be a different topology. Similarly, multi-protocol lab, as I already mentioned, it has a topology with the data center, headquarter, and the branches, right? So all these topologies are pre-built. iOS is already pre-installed, so you just need to start practicing those things, right? It becomes pretty straightforward. Just a second, guys. Yeah, so meanwhile, definitely copy that those links to book a Zoom session with Christian so that you guys can get more information if you want. All right, sorry about that. So during the off days in a week also, you're encouraged to do the labs again, and feel free to contact me anytime in case if you have any questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions uh, on different various resources that we have, right? Now, regarding EVNG that I'm going to send you, you need to have at least 8 gig of RAM for single protocol labs. And for multi-protocol labs, I would recommend to have at least 16 to 32 gig of RAM, especially for SD-WAN, it's very resource hungry. On 16 gig, it might work. It actually it will work. I have seen many people use it. So on 16 gig of RAM, it will work. And although it will be slightly slower, but for a better performance, a 32 gig RAM will be. What I generally recommend to students is that if you are going to invest your time and money in such a huge course like CCIE, it's always wise to invest in a small, like a slim form factor server from like a second-hand PC from eBay, Amazon. Very dirt cheap nowadays. You can get it, and the processor i5, i7, any older generation is okay. And if you have 32 to 64 gig of RAM in that, you can use it just as an EVNG machine, and that will actually make your life very easier as far as CCNA, is concerned. It will make it very smoother for all the labs to work. And if you are going to invest so much time in learning, make sure that you don't waste your time in devices booting slow or working slow, especially SD-WAN, because you are using it on your laptop or on your work machine where you are not allowed to change things. So it's better to invest in a dedicated CPU only for CCI. But that's just my recommendation. Definitely, you can use your own laptop as well. It's not a requirement, but it's just a recommendation for buying the CPU dedicated PC or having more RAM, right? And also the network type you should set to net in VMware so that you always get an IP address which is reachable from your host machine as well, and you can reach to the internet as well, although not needed to reach internet for many of the practicals. Just to give you an example, in the VMware setting of EVNG, you can see that I have set the memory to 32 gig, but of course you can set to 16 gig or 8 gig as well, depending on how much memory is available. And network adapter type, you can see on the left hand side, is should be set to net. All right, so let's talk about the exam itself. So we are talking about CCI Enterprise exam, and this exam is actually divided into two parts. One is the qual exam, so that you can book the lab. So for booking the lab, you need to pass the qual exam first. So earlier, back in the days, what used to happen is that you had a dedicated qual exam for CCI. So they used to call it CCI qualification exam. But now they made the thing slightly easier. So if you are preparing for your CCNP, CCNP enterprise in infrastructure, you need to pass two exams. One is the core exam, which is called NCore, and one is the concentration exam like NRC or SD-WAN specialist like this. So the core exam that you need to pass for CCNP, the NCore 350401, is also the qualification exam for CCI. So once you pass that exam, you will be able to see the dates for booking your CCI lab. And don't worry, you don't need to immediately book it. You get 3 years because the NCore exam is valid for 3 years, or NCore certification is valid for 3 years. So within 3 years, you can book your CCI lab at any time, right? So that's the written part, multiple choice question exam. But once you book the lab exam, this one I need to update. It's actually version 1.1, and our course also actually reflect 1.1, the changes that are already been made. So the next one, the lab exam, it's an 8 hours hands-on based exam, right? So in this one, this is also divided into two parts. First part is design part. So when you go in the morning for the exam, the first 3 hours you will be actually doing similar things that you did into your NCore exam, like multiple choice questions, drag and drop, no configuration needed. So if you have gone through our course and gone through all the single protocol labs and multi protocol labs, all the technologies, routing, switching, security, VPN, and SDN and programmability, you will be more than comfortable in answering these questions because they actually depend on the fundamental knowledge of these technologies. But you will not get to configure anything in this part. Most of the students report me they actually are done in 30 minutes or 40 minutes in this part. And then you get to the deploy, operate, and optimize section, which is the remaining 5 hours. And this one is the most crucial one because you have to configure topologies. Like I just showed you the multi-protocol topology earlier, similar to that, you have to configure. And it actually has three major sections: the core technologies of routing and switching, which includes switching, routing protocols, BGP, IPv6, multicasting, QoS, MPLS, DMVPN, all the IP services, everything goes there into routing and switching part. Second part is the software-defined networking, which has the SD-WAN and SDA. And last part is the programmability, which we were discussing earlier, that's netconf, resconf, Python or EEM, right? So there are two aspects of preparing for this. One is the accuracy, and second is the speed. So always make sure that you are accurate in configuration. Means when you are doing the labs, you are not making any mistakes. And once you achieve the accuracy, then you can start doing the labs again and again and again. Not for cramming anything or to remembering anything, but to make yourself habitual to become faster in configuring and getting that pace, that is speed that you need in the exam, because you only get 5 hours to complete this, right? So many people ask me after completing the course, they say, we have a huge level of knowledge now and we really feel more comfortable with all these technologies. But to be honest, I just cannot finish this complete configuration in 5 hours. So what can I do? So if you ask me individually, I can answer all the questions. But in 5 hours, I cannot do it. So the only thing you can do is practice, practice, and practice. So I always tell them, when do you know you are ready for the exam? Like you can take it next week, when you can finish this lab in 3.5 hours or 4 hours, let's say, if not go very extreme. So if you can complete the lab in 4 hours, or let's say 4.5 hours, you will get that extra crucial 30 minutes to 60 minutes to go and check again. Because remember, it's a long exam. You have to sit there for a long time. You will be tired. So it is bound to happen that you make some typos, you make some mistakes, and going back and checking things will help you immensely in fixing them before saving any configuration and logging out from the lab, right? That's why the practice at the end will be very, very important. But don't worry, that comes after learning all the fundamentals. So that comes at the end, right? And you will not have to configure everything from scratch in the exam. There will be partial configuration like OSPF will already be configured. You may just need to tweak something here and there. So that way, it's not like you have to configure everything from scratch. So not everything is asked, and whatever is asked, it's not completely blank. You do have configuration. IP addressing is already there. Routing switching configuration is already there. You just need to set up few more things. Right, so you will have instructions just like I will provide you the multi-protocol lab, which will be very similar to the CCI lab exam instruction wise, and you will get a good understanding that how Cisco asks questions and what they expect you to understand from these different questions, right? Now, what's expected from your side if you decide to join this Zero to Lab program? So just show up into the live Zoom sessions, do the labs consistently every week, week by week, and ask the questions. So in Karotul, in our organization, we definitely actually encourage asking questions. So whenever you join the live session, we will have Q&A session, and we also have Facebook group. So you can definitely ask questions, and we will be more than happy to answer your questions, right? And be consistent. What happens is that CCI is a long journey, but if you are consistent, you will be amazed how much you have achieved and how much you have learned within a small amount of time. About myself, just to let you know what exactly I have been doing in last couple of decades, I would say. My name is Arpit Pandit, and I have been in training business actually now 18 years. So for last 18 years, I have been in training in the industry, training and consultancy, and for last 11 to 13 years, more dedicatedly CCI training industry. So CCI, I have trained I think more than 200 people and CCI in different classes, and many of them also passed their exam in first attempt and some of them in second or third attempt, which is completely fine because remember, CCI exam is not a flex. It's a learning process. So many times people have got better jobs, promotions, just because they mentioned in their resume that they have prepared for CCI and appeared in the CCI exam. They didn't pass it in the first attempt, but they appeared. That shows a huge level of commitment itself, because not only the exam preparation takes a long time, but it is also a very expensive exam, right? $1,700 for the exam, not to include the cost to traveling to the exam location, booking hotels, and written exam, qualification exam. It goes to $2,000-3,000, which is not a small investment. So when you start preparing for it, that is also a huge commitment, and that's a big applause for you, because companies, hiring managers, they also understand that if somebody is prepared for CCI and have enough courage to go and take the exam, they have definitely more knowledge than somebody who never even tried. But of course, that doesn't mean that we don't want to get the number. That's the coveted number. So definitely our objective is to get our CCI number. But anybody tells you that they guarantee you will pass in the first attempt, that's a lie. Or they are using some different cheating technologies. We don't want to take the shortcuts here. I myself, I have two CCIs, one in routing switching and one in service providers. When I was doing my routing and switching CCI, and I came to the MPLS part, I fell in love with multi-protocol label switching, and I said, where can I learn it more? And I found out service provider is full of MPLS completely, and that's why that was my second step. And now I'm going to prepare, if the time permits, for CCI security. So that should be the next one if you hear any news. I also have some practical experience from the consultation work. So I generally work with service providers, and I generally provide consultation in their back end where they have their BGP configurations, and in the front end where they have the SD-WAN implementation for the customer. So customer onboarding, any issues, generally these, if there are big issues like priority one, P1 issues, then I actually provide consultation for those as well. So I do include those some real life examples here as well. So that's it from this webinar. I would definitely highly recommend again to go and copy those links from the chat for scheduling a Zoom session with Christian so that you can get your questions answered. I have few more webinars lined up after this. So We will not have much time for Q&A in this one, but don't worry, you can have a personal dedicated one-to-one Q&A session to get all your questions answered. So that's it from my side. Thanks a lot, guys, for joining, and I'll see you into the next webinar. Bye-bye. So I just pasted the links again, the Zoom link. So anybody who did not get it before can copy it from here now. And in case if you somehow missed this Zoom session link, you can definitely get in touch with me or Christian and then get from there as well, right? You can get in touch with us from the 0 to it.com, our website as well. So thanks, guys. Have a good night. And if you decide to join the Linux webinar, welcome there. Bye-bye.